Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
From Asthmacore Studios near Detroit, Michigan, it's Unregimented.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
And now, here are your hosts.
Welcome to Unregimented, number 303. I'm Chris.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Rich.
Hey, was there a debate last night?
Right?
I swore I was getting notifications about a debate.
There was definitely a Democratic debate last night as of recording this. So that would have been Wednesday night. And I heard very little about it. I'm used to, not having to watch this shit in real time and just get the highlights the next day. And nobody was even really talking about that.
No, because it's impeachment.
What? So, what do you feel like the temperature is on impeachment right now? Because it's like the Democrats feel like the dog that caught the car. Like they don't know what they want anymore. They want we don't want impeachment, but we do. Okay, it's finally time for impeachment. Let's not make it a long one. We want to make sure that we cover everything. We want to make sure that people don't get bored of it. Like, what are you planning a trilogy, or are you trying to investigate a president?
Well, I think Rich hit it on the head in our pre-show meeting. What's the temperature on impeachment? Depends on the news source you're reading. I have seen in the last 2 weeks.
How does that make it any different than any other issue, though?
It just seems like the news camps are just. You didn't think we could get any further divided? They're going, hold my beer, because I have seen so much in the last 2 weeks. This has been a bad day for Trump. This has been a great day for Trump, and a lot of times it's on the same fucking day.
Matt Taibbi was on Joe Rogan talking about his book, and that's a large part of what he brings up in his book is how the duty of news to report facts and not opinions is a lost art. He's you don't tune into the news to hear the facts. You tune into the news to get offended or hear something that reinforces what you already think.
And that's kind of interesting because I'm not saying that Matt Taibbi is not a factual reporter, but there's not a clear line between like fact reporting and opinion reporting, and Matt Taibbi is one of those guys that kind of walks in between.
Yeah, I was talking with Todd about this earlier today. Right. There's two things that are going on now that have been very noticeable in the last year. We're not reporting the entire story anymore, and there are tons of opinion pieces out there now that are disguised as news stories. And that if you're not looking for the little icon up in the corner that's buried that says opinion, you're not going to find it.
Well, that's interesting. I agree with you, but
real quick, Aaron, I just want to clarify something because I think I might have misrepresented what he was saying. That's what he was bringing up. He said they're giving you opinion disguised as news. And so people have become so conditioned now that they're like, oh, so this person spouting their opinion is factual news. When they're not going, this is an editorial or this is someone's opinion. You know what I'm saying?
It seems like you would be able to know from just if you actually read the article, you would know by how it was phrased whether it was an opinion.
That's what's happened with me a lot. Is I'll get into reading it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is someone's opinion, and then I have to go seek out to find out where it says editorial or opinion. Right. Trust me, there's people like me where I'm like, wait a minute, this is an opinion piece, and you suss it out and you find it. But a lot of people aren't like us, guys.
Right, you realize you've gone like a couple paragraphs and they've not actually cited a source or quoted anybody.
Yeah, well, dude, it's like you say all the time, words matter. It's a lot of the language. There's a lot of
should.
A lot of should, a lot of might, a lot of may.
Yeah, what this might mean.
Yeah.
What this probably means for you and your loved ones.
You won't believe what these 20 shocking photos of Trump. Yeah.
This common household appliance could kill you in your sleep tonight, and we'll tell you at 11.
Yeah, it could have been me. The news loves that angle nowadays. A lot of it jockeys between It Could Have Been Me and A Mother's Nightmare.
Yeah, this is true. Every parent's nightmare. A child disappeared today. Like, well, not every parent. I think Casey Anthony would be happy about that, but that's just me. But yeah, I know NPR is not an unbiased source, but I mean, until they have an AP radio station, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not listening to the AM
on that
radio.
A little for me. I mean, do I have? Yeah, every time I turn on NPR and they're talking about anything to do with Trump, there's 3 panelists, the host, and I can literally almost see the seething hatred for Trump coming out of my car speakers. I'm just like, okay, I get it. You guys don't like him, all right? But once again, you guys are falling into the trap. You're having panels of talking heads. You're not reporting anything. The reporting stuff, maybe it's earlier in the day, like I said, because of when I listen, it's usually at night. So I can't speak to their daytime programming. But I mean, still, it's not as biased as MSNBC, CNN, Fox, nowhere near. Excuse me. I've watched a few clips from those people about the impeachment, and I'm like, are they living in the same world as the rest of us? You know, I think a lot of people definitely have your same opinion of NPR, and I think it comes from the same place that we were just talking about with the difference between news pieces and opinion pieces. People hear something on NPR, they assume everything that's on their local public radio station is quote unquote NPR. It's all produced by the same company, and that it's all news, and they're not differentiating between news and opinion. You know, there's a lot on NPR that is just whole shows devoted to people stating their opinion on what happened in the news that week.
Yeah, so those are the shows that I tend to catch more often. The news, the small news reports, like when they take the at the top of the hour 5 minutes and catch you up on all the headlines. Now that's reported just who, what, when, where, how, why. That's just, straight up.
Right. Like, but when you say that NPR has a bias, I mean, on one hand, I agree with you, but that's only because bias has a negative connotation from how we use it in modern English. But really at its core, a bias just means that you are discerning, you have a preference to something. So when I say that Matt Taibbi he's not, always factual, that doesn't mean he lies. It means that he's letting his opinion of what's going on in the world drive what he chooses to even report on in the first place. That's bias right there. What does Matt Taibbi think is an important story, and what does he think isn't? And a lot of that bias is never even heard because it just goes down to selection. Like, what does Fox News choose to put on their front page on the day that there's a major embarrassment for Trump? There's bias in just choosing the stories and choosing which ones to pursue, which ones to promote.
I think Rich is talking more viewpoints, because I'll say it. Good luck finding a Republican viewpoint on NPR.
I hear them all the time. From Republicans that they have on.
No, but that's what I'm saying. They have to have them on.
Right, but the hosts don't offer their opinion, right? You have news hosts. If we're talking about morning edition or weekend edition or what, all things considered, right? Those are your main actual NPR produced shows. You have hosts that present news and moderate conversations between people who have opinions. And, again, is there bias in what they choose to report on? Absolutely. And do they not like Trump? Absolutely, they do not like Trump. But, at some point you do have to make a decision, right? You can't present every facet of every story as in there's two sides to all this. You have to decide at a certain point that, maybe there's a good reason for not liking Trump. Maybe he's, just the idea of him being anti-democratic is like, okay, why should we choose stories that would promote Trump in order to just balance out? Well, and in the end up creating a false narrative of what's really going on in their opinion.
I just wonder what all these news sources are going to do when he's gone. Because that's the other thing is,
What?
if it's not impeachment, for the last 3 years, or it's definitely the last year and a half, my news feed is Trump, 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 Trump.
So, what, news is just going to fold when he's no longer the president?
What are they going to talk about?
It wasn't just comedians that were
Whatever they
happy when he
talked
got
about
elected.
before.
Well, and apparently he seems to be good for business, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter what kind of outlet you are. Apparently he's good for ratings. Because if things aren't good for ratings, they don't keep talking about them or reporting on them.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
It wasn't just comedians that got excited when he got elected. A lot of people in the media were like, our jobs just got a lot easier for the next 4 years because this fool's going to just show out as president for 4 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe their job got harder. Like, I've heard a lot of comedians say in interviews and whatnot that you would think that Trump would be good for comedy, but the shit already writes itself. I don't think that Bill Maher's monologues at the beginning of his show during the Trump era have been funnier than the ones during Obama. Quite the opposite. I still watch his show because I like the types of panels that he sets up, but his monologues...
Because with him, I take his monologue... I take him and Trump, him going back and forth with Trump with a grain of salt, because there's something personal with those two there. Going back to the whole birther thing and the orangutan thing.
Sure.
Like that's... I always take... When he starts going in on Trump, I was like, dude, I get it. You got a personal beef with the guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has a right to. He has a right to.
But the idea
you can beef with anybody, but what I'm saying is, Trump's a fucking bully. Before we even thought that he was going to run for president, realistically, all right, he'd just pick a celebrity and just bully the fuck out of him. And Bill Maher was like, "You picked on the wrong motherfucker, dude. We buy videotape by the mile. All right, I got a show. I can just go and rip you once a fucking week."
Have you been watching Last Week Tonight? Because John Oliver just said, "Hold my beer."
What did he do?
But it was from last season, I think, that he went after, what's his name? The guy who owns all the coal mines in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was a lawsuit to try and, I don't know what, get damages, get him to shut up. And I guess the lawsuit was over because he was like, and now we're going to talk about it. And he went right after him again and had a whole ending the show with a song and dance number that was like, I think the guy's name was Bob. It was Fuck You, Bob. And they were like, he said, I talked it over with the lawyers and found out what lines I couldn't cross. So we're going all the way up to all of those lines. The big thing was that if it's absolutely ludicrous, then you can't say it's slander. If it was like, I can't say I saw a rich buck naked fucking a donkey in the middle of the street. You can't sue me for that because it's obviously nobody's going to believe that, or maybe they would. I don't know. So it's not actionable, right?
Well, yeah, that's what that's how they framed it. In that movie, People versus Larry Flint, about that alcohol ad, because it said that first time Billy Graham got drunk, he lost his virginity to his mom in an outhouse.
Right.
And the Supreme Court was like, no one's going to believe that, so it's not slander. It's satire. It's protected speech.
Which is all it has to be, because you can't define. You can't say, well, if it's a joke, then you can't sue over a joke, because a joke is subjective, right? You could say, well, I don't find that joke funny, so it's not really a joke, is it?
Just wait, Aaron. Just wait.
Oh, it's been argued.
I'm waiting for a lawsuit of someone who for emotional distress from a comedy show. You know that's coming. If it's not already in a court, then we haven't heard of it yet.
Well, I'm sure people have tried, but there's no grounds. I don't know where you'd find a judge to hear that case.
Yeah, judge would just go, you can leave. Next. Next case. Oh, you can leave and you chose not to. Next.
So, forgive me for my ignorance, but has there been any major moments in this week so far with the impeachment stuff?
On impeachment, and I guess it certainly doesn't seem to be playing out the way the Republicans wanted it to. So even the witnesses that they wanted to call ended up saying that, it looks like Trump withheld this money for political gain, for his own political gain. But that's the thing with it. Like, many people are watching this, probably way more people than watch the debates, certainly. And yet, all the polls that we see, constantly, every day there's a news story that's like, Americans have already made up their mind on impeachment, which, and that doesn't necessarily mean that their mind is made up, right? They answered a poll at a certain time. It's a divisive issue. You're not going to find a lot of people in the middle going, I'm just sitting here with some popcorn waiting to see the results. I don't have a horse in this, or whatever they have, a dog in the fight, a horse in the race. I don't have any.
Those both work.
What about a horse in the fight? Huh?
Right, they don't have a fighting horse in this race. No, so that doesn't mean that somebody can't change their mind.
Yeah, but we now live in the entrenched times where you pick a side and you fucking dig in. It doesn't matter.
Well, I did hear a take on this that shit. I think it was on like All Things Considered or something like that. Maybe The Daily. One of the guests said, we're sitting here and you have, if you're a Trump supporter, he did nothing wrong. Why? Because I support him. And they were talking obviously about the extreme sides of people that are, like you said, entrenched. They're not changing their mind. They went into this and God himself could come down and he ain't going to change their mind. And he's like, that's a very dangerous mindset, but that's the reality of the mindset of a lot of people in this country at this point. This is what I believe. I don't care about your facts. I'm allowed to have my opinion. Well, yeah, you're allowed to have an opinion, but there are ignorant and shitty opinions, and opinions that are just wrong. And just because you have a right to an opinion doesn't change the facts. And I guess that's what irritates me about this, because I'm just like, has it always been this way? I mean, like, has it always been, this is my side, they can do no wrong?
Well,
it seems like a phenomenon of the last decade-ish.
Yeah, but I think this is predominantly a phenomenon of people who, like you said, these are diehard Trump supporters, right? They're going to support him no matter what. These people didn't have a candidate or maybe not even a strong political affiliation before that. Maybe they would probably say that they were Republicans because they didn't want their friends to think that they were gay. But other than that, they probably didn't even vote. And Trump is their candidate because he's going to break the rules to get what needs to be done, quote unquote. They didn't want a traditional president. They wanted, the cop that they see on TV that, doesn't play by the rules, but damn it, he gets results.
Well, they got half of that.
And every once in a while, you got to drag them in front of Congress and wag their finger at them, and you just remind them, hey, you can't fire me. The people love me.
Well, if they wanted Michael Chiklis from The Shield, couldn't they have just voted for him?
Yeah.
I'd taken him over Trump at this point. But I've seen this personally, and I've heard this from people that I know. These are the type of people that after Obama was elected, they talk about these people who almost act like Obama is some sort of deity. They're walking around with like the bedazzled shirts, and Obama's got it's a picture of Obama on a shirt, and there's like this light emanating from somewhere behind him, and they're like, he's not a fucking god, he's a politician. Actually, and now these are the same fucking people walking around buying Trump teddy bears and MAGA hats by the fucking truckload.
Well, right, he had an unexpected hospital visit the other day, right? And it wasn't on his schedule. All of a sudden, the White House publishes the president's schedule each day, obviously leaving out things that would be top secret or something like that. But all of a sudden, the president's slate is cleared for the day, and he goes to Walter Reed, right? Doesn't have a doctor come to him, goes to the hospital.
It's a 73-year-old man. Tends to happen.
The White House, yeah, right. But the White House's story on this was, well, he wanted to get a jump on his physical, so This is going to be phase 1 of his.
What are you cramming for your physical?
of the 2020 physical, right? That he had some downtime, and he decided, why not? I'll go run on the treadmill for a little while and get that out of the way. And then you know how physicals go, guys. You do your phase 1, and then you go home, and then you schedule for a couple of months phase 2. You break it up into 4 phases.
Yeah. Well, he does believe you only have so much energy in any 24-hour period.
Yeah, like we're fucking video game characters.
Like there are action points in a Final Fantasy game, and when you expend them all, you're done for the day. You just
I think he believes that there's only like finite amount of energy in one person for their entire life.
No, yeah, he thinks we're all walking around with energy bars.
Oh God!
And so, not that. This is coming from a realistic place or anything. They thought that this was a fact. But the tweet that was going around after that was what looked like an X-ray of Superman, right? You can see the emblem, somebody like super built, and they were like, our president is fine. This is the proof. You all suckers can hate all you want because he's going to win again in 2020.
Again, they're half right.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's yeah. I'm kind of like, God, which leads us to the debate that supposedly happened, right? Like,
I don't even know what there is to talk about there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
But before we jump off of Trump, though, let me get one more dig in him, though, because he's fucking blind and he doesn't want to admit it. He needs glasses to read. This is why he doesn't read off of a prompter ever, because they'd have to make it so big it would be laughable. It would be like grabbing your grandma's iPad.
Hey, man, you're 73. You can wear some readers. It's okay.
2 words per line type of large font. And there was, did you guys see the notes that he had scrawled for his impromptu shouting at people while walking to the helicopter?
God.
He has written out in Sharpie his statement, which is something like he says, I want nothing, and then repeats it for some reason. I want nothing. I told the ambassador that whatever Ukraine wanted, no quid pro quo, and it's written really big in what looks like the fat Sharpie.
That's better than I thought. I figured it'd be he drew stick figures acting out what he's going to say. Badly.
Which is it was legible? Well, on that day, he became presidential. That's the day he finally became president, when I saw he had legible handwriting.
President-ish. Presidential-ish. He's warmer. You're getting warmer. You're still pretty far away, but, you're facing the right direction. Yeah, no, seriously, absolutely. Anytime an episode of It's Always Sunny's on and they show Charlie's writing and it's just all these bad drawings acting out whatever the fuck he's trying to say, I'm just like, that's what Trump does. That's exactly what Trump does. And only he can understand it. Everyone else looks at it and they're like, what is this? Oh, that means this. How do you get that from this? It's an old gag on that show, but the minute Trump got elected, I was like, I wouldn't doubt if that's how he writes his notes. I could see it.
I will say this before we get off impeachment, because again, I don't want to talk about this all episode, but I think that the only thing that could happen at this point with impeachment that would move the needle one way or the other would be if John Bolton testifies. And he's been refusing to, but one of I forget her name, something Hill, that testified today, not Anita, and she had worked with Bolton and was quoting him as saying, one of the quotes being that, I forget what he said exactly, but when he heard about the money being withheld in order to get the Ukrainian president to announce an investigation into Biden, he said that was some straight up gangster shit, and not in a good way. Not in the I'm impressed, but oh my God, that guy's committing crimes. This is bad. But apparently he's got a book coming out, so we'll get to hear all about it probably sometime after Trump's reelected, and we can all go, oh my God, if only we would have known this at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the primary reason for Bolton not testifying, other than the fact that the TV adds 5 pounds to your mustache, is that it would spoil his book. He doesn't want to give it away.
Well, it's good to know commerce trumps justice.
Right, he has some values, just not all of them.
Unregimented.
ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
Unregimented.
So yeah, what is going on? I mean, if there's something to address from the Democratic debate, I don't know what it is. Outside of, I guess there was some talk about marijuana.
Yeah, Biden's still steadfastly holding to that 80s trope of, it's a gateway drug. I think we need to have a conversation about it. Well, you know what? We got high and had that conversation in the 90s, asshole. Catch up with us, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but
kind of settled by now.
Yeah, just like marijuana is a gateway drug. Just like there's roaming packs of heroin dealers grabbing you off the street, holding you down, injecting you with heroin so they get you addicted to create customers. I was literally told by one of my parents and in school, and I've never seen that or heard of that happening.
Right. Hey, don't forget the people giving out edibles on Halloween.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just Biden trying to, what's the term for it? He's trying to ride the middle. He's being a
moderate?
A moderate, thank you. He's trying to keep his moderate badge. But, I mean, even that, he can't read the room right on. Because whether it passes in the Senate or not, the House just voted 2-3, or 3-2, to legalize marijuana, or at least remove it from Schedule 1, and a program that's going to actually try and undo some of the damage that was done during the war on drugs. So I don't know how his stance makes you a moderate. It sounds more like a hardcore Republican stance. Although his, I think it was his campaign manager, somebody, a spokesperson for his campaign. I had this quote earlier. Here it is. Vice President Biden has made it clear that no one should be in jail for using marijuana. It goes on to say Biden will decriminalize marijuana use, automatically expunge prior convictions, support legalization of medical marijuana, and allow states to set their own rules about recreational use. So he's in favor of what we're all doing anyway.
Well, we've talked about it
all over the U.S. That marijuana is being decriminalized already on a local level. Police chiefs are just going, you know what? Stop bringing me these fucking convictions. Judges are going, you know what? Stop bringing me these fucking petty convictions.
Yeah, we've talked about it in a Weedsman podcast, available here on ChristopherMedia.net, a million times. You're not a ringing the bell. Colorado rang the bell in 2012, and it's on. You know, and we've even talked. It's happened at a much quicker pace than we thought. You know, we were saying 5 years ago that maybe we'd see legalization in Michigan within 10 years. Fuck, we saw it within 4?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do see every once in a while, because I'm on Facebook. I'm a member of a couple marijuana groups, and these the more conservative-minded states, I guess, who haven't even decriminalized it or don't have medical marijuana. They have police departments every once in a while throw up on Facebook, a picture of 4 cops in full riot gear, and they'll have maybe a half pound of marijuana on a table in front of them, and they're posing in front of it, and I'm like, wow, I'd be pissed. That's where my tax money was going, and that's what the cops were doing.
Yeah.
First of all,
seriously,
those guys smoked that shit after the picture. And second, it's going to come to a point where a lot of these states you're going to be surrounded. Like, case in point, locally, Indiana, you're surrounded. All right, you got Illinois on one side, you got Michigan on the other, and I bet you Ohio's next, as far as the Midwest goes. Ohio's dirty little secret is Ohio's been very weed friendly for a while. So it's going to come to a point where a lot of these states are going to be surrounded, and what are you going to do? Like Utah, you're surrounded. Colorado on one side, Nevada on the other. You know, your best hope is to go north into Idaho or down into New Mexico. And guess what? New Mexico's where Gary Johnson comes from. New Mexico likes weed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ohio is a little late to the party as far as getting a medicinal program going. But even before then, there was a lot of places in Ohio that it was just full-on decriminalized.
Yeah, but the only time I have ever been busted for weed, I got busted for weed in Cincinnati in 2003. They went, here's your traffic ticket. All right, I'm talking 15 years ago. It was like a $125 ticket. All right, cool. You mean I'm not going to jail? Sweet.
Well, yeah, but these states, they got to get their priorities right. It's more important to bust people smoking weed than it is to, I don't know, test rape kits have been sitting in a fucking evidence locker for a decade or so.
Right.
You know, I mean, why do police work when there's the broken windows theory to fucking keep you busy, folks?
But do I get to wear the vest and the helmet and get an automatic weapon if I'm testing rape kits? Do we do that inside the armored van?
Do I get
a tank?
Yeah, a tank with the Punisher symbol with Donald Trump's hair. And can we make the Punisher symbol red, white, and blue?
That's the American Express right there.
We're here to free the fuck out of you. That I can picture that so clearly. I'm certain it exists already.
Oh, it does. It does. Matt Taibbi brought it up on Joe Rogan, and they pulled it up on the screen, and they both started dying. They were like, I want a shirt. Both of them were like, I want a shirt with that just so I say I have it. Yeah, there's variants. There's the American flag Punisher. There's the thin blue line Punisher.
Yeah.
And I think there was the Confederate battle flag Punisher, which of course there is. Why wouldn't there be, right? The ultimate participation trophy.
Oh yeah.
It's like that meme of Bart Simpson handing the cake to somebody. At least you tried.
Yeah, I like Punishers that win.
Yeah, exactly. I like my vigilantes to win. But yeah, I that's just something that really irks me is when I see shit like that, and I'm like, what are you idiots posing for? First of all, why are you dressed like a fucking like you're going into a war zone, like you're clearing out a hamlet in Fallujah somewhere? You're not. All right, these are fucking potheads. You didn't get massive weight. We're not talking 600-700 pounds. You're not dealing with a cartel here. All right, if it's like a half pound, that's probably someone that grew that shit in their house. What's the worst thing you got to worry about?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like seriously, where you need to be in full tactical gear.
It's like doing, the big game shots, but you're holding up a baby rabbit.
Yeah. With a 50 cal sniper rifle, you got a baby rabbit.
Right? Are we supposed to be impressed? Like.
It's old George Carlin joke. Hey, tune in next week. 4 of us are going to go hunting rabbits with a machine gun.
Oh God, yeah. So it's time. Unfortunately, the conversation that needs to be had won't be halved. No one's going to bring it up, which is. Why is one of the most harmful fucking drugs known to man, alcohol, socially acceptable and legal? Yet even though weed's legal here, it's still not socially acceptable. Because you gotta hide it from your kids, you gotta hide it from your family at Thanksgiving that you smoke weed. Bitch, why don't you have your 6th martini and pop a Zanny and tell me how fucking I'm a drug addict? Fuck you.
I think it just goes back to we don't like smoking. Like the act of drinking something is more socially acceptable than smoking anything.
There might be some of that, but let's not discount a 100-year-long campaign of using it to vilify minorities in this country. I mean, starting with Mexican immigrants that we didn't like. Then why are these black people just hanging out and smoking it, or just anyone that we don't like?
Well, yeah, because any group that got the stern looking at from the government. Eventually, especially back in the day, back when our parents were young, their parents were these jazz musicians smoking the devil's lettuce, That's horrible. And then look at these beatniks. And then it was the hippies. You know, it's like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Seriously, we got bigger fucking issues than this. Seriously. And I mean, but
it's low-hanging fruit because they know most people have it. Most people have it. Like, not most hippies, not most black people, not most Mexicans. Most people.
Oh, absolutely. I had this conversation with some friends a while ago. Like, we were talking about things that shocked us as we transitioned from like our teenage years into adulthood. And like, we felt like we were, you know, once, like, at some point you're an adult and your family starts treating you like an adult. And that's when you realize that everybody cusses, everybody's smoked weed, you know, it's like, and then my one buddy's like, I'm shocked how many people just cheat constantly and do coke. And I'm like, you know, that's a pretty good point. Like, I don't know if they're connected, you know.
Do you know the meme of the Chuck E. Cheese band where the two members are just looking back and forth at each other?
Yeah.
Right. So that was, somebody posted that with just me and my cousins at Thanksgiving when we want to, quote, go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just give them the look, a little bit of eyebrow.
Oh, absolutely.
Me and my uncle been doing that for years. I'll eat dinners in like 10 minutes. Let's hit the garage.
Yeah, the ex-wife, her family, you know, they lived up in the Thumb area, so you really couldn't go for, I mean, you could go for a walk, but it's fucking freezing, and you want to walk through cornfields? No, I'm good. So we'd go to the store, and it's like, no, we didn't. We just pulled around to where they couldn't see us and just fucking fired up. It's like, come on, everybody, even her grandmother had to know, because we all come back slack-eyed and silly, you know?
Well, it's funny, too. I'm 40, my uncle's 60, and there's still that element of, oh, but your mom might see us. Dude, I'm 40. You're 60.
That's what I'm saying. That's what makes it so ridiculous. Yeah, you can make it a double. Make it a double, Ma, and she'll pour it for you.
But I've also been called out by my mom, like, you know, when I was younger, like, you got some strong shit, huh? I can smell you when you hit the door. Like, my mom's not stupid. Yeah.
Well, she lived through the 60s. Come on. Even if she didn't partake.
She grew up with her brother. That's all I know. She lived her 60s and 70s. She grew up with who she grew up with. She knows what weed is.
Yeah. So honestly, that's what should come out of this. It won't come out of this. You know, it'll still be, for whatever reason, whether it's because of 100 years of it being beat in our head that it's, you know, this evil drug or whatever, which I don't understand. Do you somehow, if you stop smoking weed, do you turn a certain age and then automatically turn into like a teetotaler? And then even though you have a lifetime of experience looking at people high, and yeah, they might do dumb shit, but they're not nearly as dumb as when they do when they're fucking drunk.
Right.
But you still vilify weed. You start to vilify weed like it's heroin or fentanyl or something.
You do the dumb shit that doesn't put you in the hospital. Hopefully.
I mean, some people want to go. Some people do dumb shit sober that puts them in the hospital. I can attest to that. I have some friends that have some stories, but still, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because with Thanksgiving coming up, talking to some friends, I was like, so what are you guys, doing? And it's amazing when people are like, getting together with a bunch of friends and having dinner at my place. Oh, you're not going to your family's house? Fuck no. Why would I go to my family's house? Listen to them argue about politics, wait for someone to get drunk, and then someone else to get drunk, and then they get damn near into a fist fight. All this bullshit. Like you said, got to go hide the fact that you want to smoke a fucking joint while everybody's popping pills and throwing back booze like it's going out of style.
But I'll pose a question to this person. You never had a family before? But this is new?
No, it's not new. That's why they don't want to do it anymore.
I'm reminded of Turk's speech in Scrubs, where he talks about the holidays. He talks about how divorced kids think they got the market corner on shitty holidays, and he goes into the speech about how his militant brother goes at his dad, and then grandma's going at this and that, and he's like, and you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna eat, and then we're gonna fucking get together at Christmas and do it all over
again. I forgot about that. Yeah, I understand, man, but it's just. As someone who doesn't have any family really to speak of up here, I was thinking, like, the best Thanksgivings I've ever had have been with friends, not with family. I mean, I can think of the 2 years that I had the best Thanksgivings ever, and it was just it was all my friends hanging out. Granted, some people went to their family's house earlier in the day, but that night they come over to whoever's apartment or whoever's house. We all got together and we had a great time. No blood was spilled, no furniture was broke. I can be at a party where furniture doesn't get broke. Trust me. But yeah, so I don't know, man. It's just like I said. Sorry, I got off on a little bit of a rant there. Just it really is irritating that we're sitting here and we have our own government basically going, okay, it's time to give up the ghost. We fought the war on drugs and drugs won. Let's wave the white flag. And yet there's going to be people that are like, oh God, they smoke weed. Oh, Jesus, that's like being a rapist or something, right? Do we need to be put on a watch list like sex offenders?
I mean, whether it passes through the Senate or not, this vote in the House is historic.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
This is the first time that they've even voted on removing cannabis from Schedule 1.
Mm-hmm.
Because and then what is it doing there?
And packaging that with, I don't know what to call it other than like a reparations bill, really, even though that has like a racial connotation these days. That's really what it is. It's payback for, oops, we fucked up. We'd like to make it right.
I mean,
to have that in there as well, is both those things are historic.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't just sneak by. There were Republicans that supported it. So it's not out of the question that the Senate could approve this. The idea that, even though it's a Republican-controlled Senate, maybe they just have bigger things on their plate right now that are concerning them and don't have it in them to put up a fight. And don't think it's really worth it, that their vote on marijuana at this point isn't going to be a deciding factor on whether they get reelected.
The Republicans, you think they're going to default to give the babies their bottle? We got bigger fish to fry? Ooh, wow, 2 cliches in a row. I feel like I should get some kind of merit badge for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible, but they're dicks, so what are you going to do? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they voted it down either.
Well, we've covered this on the Wiesman. You know how you sell to Republicans? Money. You say it can generate money and create jobs. They're in.
Okay, so the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, first of all, people call him Cocaine Mitch. So we already know what his drug of preference is. He doesn't seem to me like a weed smoker anyway. But other than nicknames aside, he actually has interest in CBD and hemp because he represents a state, Kentucky, that does grow a lot of it and could grow a hell of a lot more. Actually, if I remember correctly, I think Kentucky is the only state that's been approved to grow marijuana federally for federal studies.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. If it's not Kentucky, it's one of those states near it. But anyway, yeah.
He's from an agricultural state.
Right. He's from an agricultural state that could benefit a lot from a new crop like hemp and using that to produce not only hemp itself, but CBD. And he's met with the incoming FDA commissioner to try and figure out a policy that would, let's see, I'm looking at his statement in the press release here. I look forward to working closely with Dr. Hahn, that's the FDA commissioner, on several important issues for Kentucky. Like many Kentuckians who are taking advantage of hemp's legalization, I am eager for FDA's plans to create certainty for CBD products. So I know that doesn't directly tie into marijuana, even though it all comes from the same basic plant. It's very different things when the federal government regards those plants. Excuse me. But the biggest hurdles in fully legalizing, commercializing things like hemp and CBD products end up being the same things that are keeping cannabis Schedule 1.
Just never understood. We've gone through the things that are on Schedule 1 with it. Right. We've got things that are below Schedule 1 that are like, wait, why is that Schedule 2 and pot Schedule 1? Like it doesn't belong there.
So this could go either way with McConnell. He's going to be a major factor in deciding whether this passes or not, because if he wants it to, he has the pressure to put on the right people to make sure that it has the votes. So it could be beneficial for him to clear some hurdles for hemp and CBD in his state to just remove it from Schedule 1 altogether. And it's kind of a nice way to do it because you're not voting for legalization, right? You're just reclassifying something. On the other hand, maybe Mitch McConnell gets everything that he needs from the FDA chief and is content with that.
Well, money is usually a good indicator. If you follow the money, you'll see how someone is most likely to act. In other words, to put more of it in their pocket. But then you have situations like we have here in Michigan where the city of Detroit goes, nope, you can't have any dispensaries in the city. And it's like, I'm sorry, because you guys are just drowning in tax dollars?
Yeah.
With your dwindling tax base?
Yeah.
You're 500,000 people?
It's going to be
150,000 in the last 10 years have left the city?
Well, so this is going to... There's a lot of questions to be answered here. If this actually does... If marijuana is removed from Schedule 1, what does that mean to legalization as it stands right now?
It's going to make it a lot easier. You could argue that it's picking the lock on the door, so to speak. Like the door will still be shut, but it'll be a lot easier to open if it's off Schedule 1.
Right, but are we assuming that all the states that don't have some sort of legal marijuana program currently would still continue to not have a program, or would it just be legal and they don't have a program to regulate it?
My guess would be they probably keep with the model they got going. We're like, hey, it's your call. Yeah. Fine, you want to keep it illegal? That's on you. It's the same thing they're doing with legalization. You want to make it legal? Go ahead. I get. I would guess so too, because
the other way. It would be really difficult. It would be a lot harder to get this passed if part of it was overriding states' rights.
Yep, because that's the thing too. You got to remember, we're dealing with the Senate's dominated by the states' rights party.
Yes, I don't know.
The fact that we're even having this conversation is great.
I'm glad you think so.
Could you even imagine us having this conversation 10 years ago? Hell no.
No, the conversations we were having 10 years ago was, you think weed will ever be like legal in our lifetime?
Yeah.
While getting high, having that conversation.
Yeah. What do you think we'll have first, legal weed or a flying car?
Flying car, dude. We got cars that run on water, right? Big Three won't let us release them. And yes, sadly, I've had that conversation with someone. I'm like, okay.
Telling you, the Big Three and law enforcement are keeping down the teleporter. They don't want it. I'll lead that charge.
Well, I mean, that and the fact that nobody could even explain how it would even start to work theoretically.
I bet Elon knows. Just give him some joint. Give him a joint.
Honestly, look, as somebody who reads a lot of science fiction, who watches a lot of TV shows based in science fiction and fantasy, like teleportations is not a thing. It exists. Magic characters teleport. In science fiction, nobody fucking teleports.
Star Trek, that's it.
I saw Willy Wonka. You get chopped up in the air in a million pieces.
Well, yeah, Star Trek is the only one.
Yeah, and I remember it's one of those YouTube holes I fell in. I was watching a video, and then this video was recommended, and 2 hours later, I'm watching a video on, if teleportation was real, this is how it would work. It would literally destroy you and then reconstruct you in a new place. So technically, you have to die to be teleported. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, no wonder Bones was like, fuck this. I don't want to be teleported. I don't. Let's take the shuttle.
Yeah.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
All right, so what else, guys?
I'm drawing a complete blank on what we talked about beforehand.
Were we talking about, like, gay dogs?
Don't be gay, Sparky.
There was a story that I was reading earlier that was entitled was same-sex behavior hardwired in animals from the beginning, which kind of explains a lot of that right there in the headline. But
I got to know, where was this from?
This is from Live Science, and this is based on there's a study. I'm going to follow the link. That didn't link to the study.
While you're looking for that, I wanted to get this out in the pre-show chat, but I saved it. I'll just play this card now because I'm usually the guy who'll play this card on the show. Could this possibly be woke culture going? See, animals were gay first. We now live in a time where these are the questions that come up. By the way,
yeah, but if you're in my experience, if you're putting a lot of weight into evolution, all right, usually you're not super religious. And besides, like, maybe some deep-seated, like, I know it's a stereotype, anybody that hates gay people is secretly gay. But there are people like that out there. But then there are people that are just like, I'm sorry, it's gross. What other reasons are there to hate gay people? I mean, religion seems to be like number one by a lot. And I mean, if you're uber religious, you're going to reject evolution. The closest I've ever seen a religious person even give evolution half a glance is this intelligent design bullshit. Like God had a big whiteboard and was up there planning out, and was going to trick us by making Darwin come up with the theory of evolution, just like he planted dinosaur bones to test our faith.
What apes are the beta test? Is that what they're getting at, or?
I guess it was so fucking stupid. I went to a church and I was looking at the stuff for the Sunday school, and we're talking like kids that are probably in 13, 14 years old. They have these damn books with like dinosaurs walking next to Jesus and shit, and trying to explain intelligent design. And ironically, I got dumber by picking up the book about intelligent design, so I put it back down and just walked away and shook my head. But that's the shit they pimp. That's as close to evolution as they get. So, I mean, I don't, like, the woke crowd's already pretty much won on this one. I kind of agree with Joe Rogan. If you're against gay people, it's like one of three reasons. Your religion, secretly you're gay, or you're afraid that dicks taste yummy and you don't want to find out.
I guess just the reason I said that comment, though, is just because and Aaron's going to get into it. I just think, like, we want to make more. I guess this is going to turn into like a chicken or the egg kind of a thing with it, based on the conversation we were having in the pre-show meeting. But I just, like, when it gets down to it, a lot of our wiring is basic bitch wiring. Whether it's us, whether it's a dog, whether it's a duck,
they use same sex as a term. The researchers do in this study, where they identified over 1,500 different species that they observed some sort of same-sex sexual behavior. And they did so, they refer to that as same-sex behavior because they don't want to confuse it with, human activity, homosexuality, heterosexuality, gay, straight, any of those types of terms. They're not looking at it in that aspect. They're just observing when a species has same sex.
I mean, to me, it seems like the drive. If they're like, what's the drive for that? It must feel good. I mean, they're animals. They're for the most part, they're driven by the most based instinct, right?
And right, but we have drive is something that's woven into our DNA. It's not something that we start off with.
You don't think there's a basic instinct in every being to want to propagate?
Yeah, and it's shaped by evolution. It's not like it was put in us by some higher power. It wasn't part of some intelligent design plan.
It's driven by survival instinct. We stop fucking, we go away.
But the survival instinct is grown through the process of evolution. And when you try and decide where in evolution behavior comes from, because it all comes from evolution. You look for where the benefits are, right? And especially when you're talking about high expenditure activities. For example, hunting down another animal, right? Why does a lion hunt down a wildebeest? Because he needs to eat. There's a definite reason for expending that energy. Whereas other behaviors just kind of develop as more as quirks, right? Why does a lion purr, or have these certain types of vocalizations? It doesn't serve any greater purpose, and it's not something that was driven by evolution, but there might have been some reason, or that that became one of the predominant forms of communication for that species. But in the case of sex, that's more on the low energy expenditure side of it.
Not if you're doing it right.
Humans put a lot more thought and process and energy and money into it than animals do. And all they're really saying in this article is not, instead of trying to figure out is there a beneficial reason for homosexuality, and is there a species-wide benefit to that, right? Is kind of the wrong question. Instead, they're looking at it like it might actually, because it's so much more common than we thought before, that it might have just been the common behavior of fuck anything that moves. And as evolution started to pare down that process, you're naturally, of course, going to get, this is the easiest case for evolution to be made. What is the common trait amongst all the animals that propagate? What are they going to have? A strong sexual desire for the opposite sex, right? So it's one of the first qualities to actually start to be bred out. So instead of looking at it nature has this plan and it wanted us to pair up and make more, it's more of how do you start from chaos? How do you start from, primordial beings that need to replicate in some way, and pare that process down to through evolution to actually mating up male and female.
I was trying to look up an article real quick, and I can't seem to find it. I just read it not that long ago. It was about scientists looking for the quote-unquote gay gene, and how some people were against looking for this at all because they were afraid it's a step towards
identifying a group of people, right?
Eliminating, if they can remove the gay gene, why would they? You know what I'm saying? What's the reason for it?
Yeah, if CRISPR gets approved for human DNA and you get to decide if your baby is blonde, brunette, gay, or straight.
But I just think it's interesting because if same gender sex is found in nature, all right, and you're a scientist. I understand you want to discover things, you want to push the boundaries, you want to figure out why things work. That's probably why you went into the field.
But you're a curious person by nature if you're a scientist, yes.
Absolutely. I'd hope so. I wouldn't want you to bumble into some shit. If you bumble into a cure for cancer, good for you, but I don't think it works that way. It's not like chocolate and peanut butter and oops, I dropped my chocolate and the peanut butter. But it's just I get the concern over it, but to me, if it's found in nature and we're studying this, the more we understand something, the less excuse for people to be fearful or standoffish against it, at least in theory,
right?
They should have.
Don't you think that even people who have no problem with homosexuality, maybe they are themselves, are the most liberal-minded, don't give a fuck, whatever, still a big chunk of those people still believe that this is some sort of unique, deviant human behavior. And I don't mean that in they are deviants, but that it's
deviating is a word.
If it has no purpose in nature, how did it even survive, right? That's how we think about it. So just much of our behavior may have spawned from evolution, but now has spun out of control in ways where, anxiety would be a good thing when you've got to fucking get up and get some food for your family and provide. But now that's only half your day and you have to go home and figure out what to do with the rest of it, the anxiety just builds up. And I think we look at homosexuality more as that type of, there might have been a purpose for it at some point, but, like you said, we're driven to procreate, right? And you would think that like homosexuality may just be weeded out completely through the process of evolution. So I don't know, I'm not debating what they're saying. I believe what they're saying in here in this article, and it makes sense. But how does this line up with what we see in our current society?
I hesitate to use what I'm about to use.
Yeah,
but we're not we might get canceled I might get canceled for this, but whatever. It's on every production line. There's going to be irregularities, and I don't mean the word irregularity with a negative connotation here.
Right, and I think that is what. Like, again, even people who have no problem with it still think of it as an irregularity, a glitch. They might say it's a feature, not a bug, but still.
Well, because it kind of gets at what you were saying. What benefit does it? The benefit of heterosexual sex is more people,
right,
to the species. The benefit of homosexual sex to the species really just more for the individual, quite honestly.
Right, but evolution has. The process of evolution has really just helped us key into certain feelings. So, like the feeling of anxiety, we also have that coupled with hunger. We have a pain in our stomach when it's time to put more food in it. We have a pain in our chests when we are not getting enough oxygen. We have a pain in our finger when we touch the hot stove. There's all reasons for that we can directly see, and just like there's on the other side of that is we have pleasure, and sex being a pleasurable thing is a way of that I don't want to. I'm phrasing this wrong because it's not that evolution does things, right? Evolution is just the process that life goes through. We speak a lot about evolution in these terms of like it's shaped us, which is just really a lazy way of saying intelligent design. But yeah, the process of evolution has keyed us into the pleasure sense of rubbing our genitals together, right? The process of evolution can't build into our DNA a quote-unquote drive to procreate. That, first of all, is just higher level thinking to understand and make that connection between put my dick in something and then a baby pops out and that grows into a whole new person. All evolution does is say, when you do this with your dick, it feels really good, and you're probably going to want to do it a lot. So in that respect, it almost makes sense that any species, especially early on, would just be sticking its dick in everything. And if it happened to stick its dick in something that made something else, well, that would be great. And again, if the next generation of that species is going to have a little bit of a predilection for sticking its dick in the thing that makes more of them, and so on and so on.
But doesn't it seem now like you're straying away from
of weeding out the homosexuality as a trait? And now I think now that we get into a society where it's no longer so important, we see the birth rate going down, right? And in a country that's still trying to grow, we are making less people.
Would that line of thinking you're talking about, though, kill the gay gene argument? Like, no,
I think so.
It's just a learned behavior we've passed down for generations. I think
so, because sexuality is just a spectrum, and most of us end up on extreme sides of that spectrum, but there's still, just like there's more weed smokers in your family than you know until you hit adulthood, if you really get people talking, you'll find out that a lot more people than you think fall somewhere in between.
Trust me, every time I'm at a family function, I'm like, 10% of people are gay. There's more than 10 of us in this room.
Yeah, nobody's fessed up yet. Nobody's leaving this room.
Hey, all the women leave, everybody exhale. If I smell dick on your breath, just know I know. Just know I know.
Trust me, I got some friends I do that with too. Like, man, there's like 12 of us in this room. Not all of us like pussy. One of you motherfuckers is lying.
Well,
that's just statistics.
You have evolution weeding out that homosexuality. Well, again, I guess to use the researchers' words of same-sex behavior. It's weeding out same-sex behavior. And then you have these, once you have humans start to build the structures of society, then you have a very strong societal drive to not be engaging in same-sex activity.
Can I ask a rhetorical question?
You need more people. You need a whole big family to farm. You need a whole big population to tax, to do big projects. You need a lot of people to sustain societies. So on top of evolution, society starts weeding out the homosexuality. Now that we're more in a situation where more people doesn't necessarily equate to more growth, then we have more people that are willing to be open to their same-sex activity.
Can I ask a question? A burning question I've had on my mind since we've been discussing this, because you brought it up like right out of the gate. They say they're not doing this. They're calling it same-sex activity, so because they don't want to anthropomorphize the animals.
Right.
Why the fuck did you do the study? What's the point? If the whole point isn't to link this behavior to human behavior, what was the point? Why are you putting this out? And it's more of a rhetorical question.
Well, that's the thing, is we learn more about human behavior when we study animals in ways where we're not trying to link their behavior, right? It's almost like you've already decided what you want to prove. You're going, I see this behavior in humans. Let me find some animals that do the same thing and see if I can make some links here and figure how this works. But that's not really how you do research. If you're going to research behaviors of animals, you're just going to watch the animals and see what they do, right? So it just starts there as these studies get pared down more and more, and people specialize more and more in certain species and certain types of behavior. Well, then, somebody eventually there's going to be a group of people that get together and go, all right, let's combine our knowledge. Let's see what we can come up with and get together a real study on sexual behaviors of different animals and see if we find a pattern emerging. And the pattern that they found is there's a lot more same-sex activity going on than anyone previously thought.
Penguins, I get it. It's cold.
Well, that's the thing.
Instead of any port in a storm, any hole in
any hole in Antarctica.
Not only is it a low energy expenditure, right? So there's not a big sacrifice to do it. That it's also, there's fringe benefits. If you're fucking another one of your species of the same sex, you're not going to make more, so you're not propagating the species, but you might be solidifying a friendship, an alliance.
And if you can't fuck a friend, who can you fuck?
Hell of a way to solidify a relationship.
But I mean, there might be that sexual activity might be part of other greater things, like having your back in a fight if somebody decides to challenge your status in a pack, grooming, sharing of food, sharing of shelter.
All comes from saying, here's my butthole, we can share this too.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. When you share your butthole, you share the world.
What is penguin for? I wish I knew how to quit you.
I don't know. I mean, you tell me that penguins are having same-sex relationships. I don't know how that works, because I don't know, first of all, how they find any of their genitals or buttholes. And have you ever seen a penguin's mouth? Like, nobody wants that near their shit. Have you seen the inside of one?
Yeah, it's like an inside of certain snapping turtles' mouths. It's rather horrifying.
It's just rows and rows and rows of teeth.
And you thought getting a blowjob in high school from the chick with braces was bad.
Or the chick who sucked it too hard. What are you doing?
Or the one who literally thought blowing into your dick was how it was done. I'm not a balloon, bitch. Oh.
Right. So I don't think that, I don't think they're going to find a gay gene. And this also kind of blows up the argument of nature versus nurture. This is really coming down on the camp of it's nature in the way that everyone has the same potential for homosexual activity as they do heterosexual activity, and it's their environment that ultimately makes the decision.
See, I don't know.
What do you have to say to the Born This Way crowd? Because I could see them taking very much offense to what you just said.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
No, not necessarily offense. I'm just thinking of the conversations I've had with friends that are gay, and I'm like, so have you ever been attracted to a female? And more often than not, what I hear is, I can recognize an attractive female. Like, you can recognize, Brad Pitt's better looking than you. And I'm like, he is, so.
Right, but there is a difference here. We're not talking about somebody who was born, quote unquote, straight, right, quote unquote, normal, and then something happened to them, some sort of abuse, some sort of molestation, and then they became gay. All we're saying is, gay, straight, it's all a blank slate, and that blank slate is written by your upbringing.
See, I had several people in my past who would tell you, like, no, I knew. Yeah, at first grade, I knew. Several people that would just...
Right. But by first grade, you're already being molded by your peer group, your family, the society.
Well, like I said, the one thing that really drove it home for me, I was 99.9% on accepting that, hey, if you were born this way and you've never been attracted to females sexually, you've only been attracted to males, great, wonderful. Is talking to a friend of mine, having an honest and deep conversation, and he's going, I wished when I was a little kid I was attracted to females, because I thought there was something wrong with me because I was attracted to males. I wished I could have been straight. And that's when I was like, I've never wished I could be gay. I've never been like, boy, I really wish I was gay. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that is something that he can't change within himself. I mean, it's like when you hear about the gay conversion therapy and stuff, and when people defend it, I go, flip the script on it. What if being gay was the norm, and they sent you to a gay conversion therapy? Now you got to fuck a guy. Your choice is fuck a guy or be ostracized from everybody you love and everybody you know. Now do you understand why some of these people turn to something as drastic as suicide in those situations? Because if you're not gay, I mean, let's just be honest. I've had gay friends tell me, they're like, you know how you look, you think gay sex is or some people may think gay sex is nasty. I'm like, yeah. Believe me, there's a lot of gay people that think straight sex is nasty. And I'm like, there's a lot of straight people that think straight sex is nasty, so don't worry about it. Sex is just really disgusting when you really think about it. Especially after you walk in a room after someone's been fucking and you can smell the sex in the air. You're like, okay. It's like pennies and seawater in here. Y'all need to shower. Seriously, go do something.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't believe that you're wired or born one way or the other when it comes to that, but there is something I don't know. It's almost like societal change that has been baked into our DNA on this, right? Because I agree with you. Like, I don't feel like I could go either way. I don't feel like there was any point in my life where it was, even a choice.
Exactly. It's just always been. Yeah. No, I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking of the swing scene in Chasing Amy. Why not guys? No interest. There's your answer as to why I'm gay. I have no interest.
Right, but have I never had interest in men because I have a certain gene? I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this. It doesn't have to make sense to us because they haven't found any gay gene.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like no definitive, look, we got it, here it is. We do know that on gay people and straight people, there's, through, CAT scans and stuff showing certain parts and monitoring of the brain show a straight person certain pictures. This part of their brain lights up, whatever. Obviously, I'm very layman's terms here. I don't know the exact terms, and vice versa for gay people. But that doesn't mean that there's a gene that makes them that way. And I mean, I would bristle at the thought that, well, if your environment made you gay and that's it. I believe it may be a contributing factor, but I can't buy into that there's just this one hard and fast thing that makes you gay or straight. And if it happens, it's like a switch gets flipped. That's like these people that say, well, if you were molested as a kid, you're going to grow up to be a molester. No, you're misrepresenting the facts. Yes, most people who molest children were molested as children. Most people who were molested as children aren't child molesters, though. Even though now I'm starting to wonder, after all the shit we've talked about on this fucking show for the last 2-3 years, it seems like half the country has been molested and half the country is trying to fuck children. So I don't know. Maybe I just shit over my own point.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. I think something that's getting lost in this, at least in my mind, is I think it's actually quite like beneficial that we can sit and have this conversation. And I would like to think, God, maybe I'm having too much hope here. If I am, drag me back down to earth. I'd like to think most people can have this conversation, and it's not clouded by, well, that's evil, they're going to hell, and all the nonsense that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've just had this conversation that factored into absolutely none of it. You know, even
anyone who's going to root their argument in religion, I can't have a real conversation with them anyway. Not that I can't have a real conversation with the religious people, but you know, if they want to use that as their basis for everything in life, then yeah, I don't see what we have left to talk about.
It's like if you're not into sports and you're friends with someone who's into sports, you just don't talk sports with them. Anything that's going to bring up your religion, I really don't want to talk to you about. Now, if you're one of these assholes who has to shove your religion in my face every fucking second, then we're probably not going to talk.
Right. Or if everything comes back to sports, if that's all every situation, they've got an analogy. I was trying to come up with some examples, but I have no knowledge of sports, so you can only imagine what those would be.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're gonna
pop stars with auto-tune. And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
Well, I don't know. I got something that might be a little interesting to throw out there. It's a lot lighter than what we've talked about so far. Not that we've gotten like crazy dark this episode, but did you guys hear
that last subject was light in the loafers?
But do cancel. You get a rim shot, then you get canceled. Yeah, exactly. First of all, did you guys know that they released a new Charlie's Angels movie?
I saw a pop-up ad for that on Monday on the plane. It's like, comes out this week. I'm like, do I just not watch TV that much anymore? Or do they just not like promote movies like they used to?
Funny, I saw for 2 weeks straight non-stop advertisements on Twitter for this, and then heard a bunch of people complaining about, wait a minute, I didn't even see ads for this. Like, no previews before movies, no television ad. They focused all of their advertising campaign money apparently on social media, and it did not play well for them.
No.
I bet you if this was a Netflix release, it probably would have worked out a lot better for them. But getting people into the theaters for something that doesn't involve superheroes?
And I mean, the fact that I kind of feel like this is an overused thing lately, an overused phrase people throw out. No one was asking for this movie. Really, no one was asking for this movie, though. This is a legit time and a legit use of that phrase. Yeah. Because they tried to reboot the TV series like 8 years ago, and it lasted 5 episodes. You know, I mean, it's kind of like, well, first of all, I think the movie was supposedly like budgeted close to $100 million. I'm trying to look up hard figures on it, and I'm not seeing them immediately, which makes me wonder why. Oh, no, I take that back. Okay. It was budgeted at 55 million. It did less. I
almost said that looks more like a $60 million movie than 100, but
yeah. It did barely 8 million at the box office opening weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, this isn't like the only big movie that this has happened to recently.
I mean,
if Terminator movie bombed.
If you do a lot of this math on paper, it seems like a moneymaker, right? It's a strong female leads action film, known property, will key into nostalgia. I mean, it seems like the right time to reboot this franchise.
Well, I watched a video about whatever studio, I'm not sure what studio released it, Sony. When Sony was in talks to reboot the series, the actresses they wanted, and like they were going after like Scarlett Johansson, Margot Robbie, and they all turned it down. And like the biggest star in this movie, arguably, is, I mean, Patrick Stewart, Kristen Stewart being a very close second. But I mean, is Kristen Stewart really known for her wonderful acting skills? Seems like most people like hate her. I don't know. I've never seen the Twilight movies. I have to preface saying what I'm about to say with that. So I have no idea about those movies. Everything I've seen her in, she's been serviceable. I don't think she's like this horrible actress that everybody paints her out to be.
Yeah,
but I don't think she's like A+ list though.
In the advertisements on Twitter definitely were focusing on her. I couldn't even tell you who the other people in the movie were. All the clips were her, and I was kind of interested in seeing her do something non-typical for her. And I mean, maybe all the best shit was in the ads, like what happens with some movies, but it seemed like there were some good lines in there too. It looked interesting. I don't know.
Well,
but I also think that Kristen Stewart is like the most full of shit up her own ass actor since Johnny Depp.
Yeah, but no one can accessorize like the Depp man.
If you ever want to just give yourself like a little bit of brain numbing, a cheap home lobotomy that'll last about 20 minutes, just chain together a couple of her interviews.
Is it that bad, really?
Listen to her talk, and it's just like, I just think hands are just beautiful. Hands are like the most beautiful thing. Like, you look at somebody's hands and it tells you your whole life. Shut the fuck up. You pretend to be people. That's it. Nobody's looking at your fucking hands. You're not looking at anyone's hands. Just you're looking at your hands because you can't think of anything to say.
Oh my God. I might have to just look up those fucking interviews now just for a good laugh. I didn't realize. I think
that one was her and Shia LaBeouf, I think. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean.
Look up those two. That is the meeting of the minds.
That's what I'm saying. You got Shia LaBeouf and her in the same room. Oh my God.
Yeah. Geniuses. I'm going to tell my kids that it was Frost Nixon.
Well, like on pay. First of all, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I never was into Charlie's Angels, the reruns when I was of the original series when I was a kid.
I like the reboot.
The reboot, nah.
Yeah.
I was like, it's an action movie. It's
yeah, totally. And they were total superheroes in it. And Crispin Glover was in it, and he was awesome.
I like the fact that he looked at the script and said, I am not saying this shit, so I'm making a character change. He doesn't talk.
Right.
Like that had to take balls. You know what I'm saying? To go, I'm not saying this garbage.
Day one of shooting. Crispin, you didn't say your lines. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's how it's going to be.
Okay, I guess we'll just keep going then.
But yeah, Elizabeth Banks directed it, and I know she's directed some stuff before, like some television, and oh God, what is it? It was like Movie 42 or something like that. It was like supposed to be like a Kentucky Fried movie for the 2010s that came out, and it was just absolutely horrible. I think the most memorable scene is Hugh Jackman goes on a date and he has balls on his chin. So there you go. That's about the level of comedic genius you're dealing with in that movie. But, I like Elizabeth Banks, but then she's going to come out and be like, oh, no one came and saw it because men don't want to watch women in action movies. And I'm like, why did you have to pull that tired card out?
Wait a minute. Are you sure she said that?
I am absolutely 100% positive
she said that. It's 2019.
I am 100%
because remember,
I have no
different from what I read.
Well, then I don't care what you read. It's wrong. I've seen the interview. I heard the interview on NPR when she said, if people don't go see this movie, it's going to reinforce the stereotype that if men don't go see this movie, it's going to reinforce the stereotype in Hollywood that men don't like women in action movies. And I was like, stop.
It's the same bullshit that they did when the last Ocean's movie came out and it was the big giant piece of shit. But if you said it was a big piece of shit, you were a misogynist.
Here's the flaw in that, because someone brought up, well, what about Wonder Woman? That did almost $1 billion. And she threw out, well, that's a comic book movie. They've made 37 Spider-Mans. And it's like, yeah, you were in 3 of them. What's your point? Like, that's what Hollywood's looking for right now. They're looking for the big movies, quote unquote, tentpole movies. And they keep trying to pull franchises from the past and remake it and remake them or reboot them or give them a soft reboot, like the new Terminator movie that flopped, the new Rambo movie that flopped. I mean, is that because men don't like to watch Terminator and Rambo movies? No, it's because they're not that great of fucking movies. And it's okay, you made a bad movie. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't have to turn into some fucking social cause. All right? And her going after comic book movies, there's 37 Spider-Man movies. Yeah, and most of them fucking sucked. I remember Spider-Man 3 getting savaged by the critics. And then I watched it and was like, why did I waste my 2 hours watching this shit? What happened? Spider-Man 2 was I thought really good.
Oh, yeah.
And then here's this? Really? Topher Grace is Venom. Get the fuck out of here. Go sit in the circle on that 70s show. That's what you're good at. Go be Eric Foreman. Like, come on now. I mean, so, to me, that's just an excuse because people don't like, I fucked up. I made a bad movie. That's how come when the director of Dark Phoenix was like, it's a bad movie. It's not that great. I didn't make a good movie. I was like, holy shit. Someone who's honest in Hollywood, he won't last long. But then I found out he's not really a quote-unquote director. He's more of a writer who kind of inherited that movie to direct because of the stuff that happened with Brett Ratner. Was it Brett Ratner?
Yes.
I can't. But, I mean, is it really, I mean, like, I know we've touched on it before, but I mean, is this kind of like, do you think she has a point about if it's not a comic book movie? Like, take away the whatever, men won't go see women and whatever. Okay, fine. That's your plot armor you're going to put on to defend yourself. Great, wonderful. But like, if it's not a comic book movie, that it's almost like an uphill battle to get people to go see it.
Well, I think that's just kind of where the business is at.
Well,
they're kind of where music is at. They need the big hits. There's no more time to develop an artist. You need a number one hit.
But the fallacy is believing that people are listening to less music because of that. Like it's like are we going to see, your average movie being able to make millions of dollars at the box office if it's not some sort of huge spectacle? Yeah, maybe we are, but that doesn't mean that people aren't ultimately watching it. Is everyone going to watch an opening weekend or even watch it that first week?
Well, especially when you have people we have an even shorter turnaround time from movies in the theater to where they're available online legally. And then you have the pirating community you know, if you don't mind watching a shitty cam version of a movie, you can pretty much, if it premieres Thursday or Friday morning at 12:01, probably by the time lunchtime on that same Friday, it's somewhere on the internet, you know, some cam version of it. And I mean, you know, it's not an arm and a leg to go see a movie, but I'm kind. It's like, if I'm going to go spend the money, pay overpriced concession shit, I want it to be like kind of an event movie. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? One that needs to be seen on the big screen.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily mean an action movie or a comic book movie. I mean, you know, I one of my biggest regrets is turning down free passes to go to the local premiere to see Memento. I'd have loved to see Memento on the big screen. It's not a, you know, stereotypical action shoot 'em up whatsoever. You know, it's just.
But, you know, even though like the movie industry has its issues with piracy, just like the music industry does, of course. But this argument over you know, losing money to superhero films seems a lot of it are the same echoes from the music industry about piracy and about, you know, formats like CDs and any kind of digital format that was easy to duplicate, that was going to kill the industry. And it did majorly disrupt the main industry of music, but it didn't mean that people listened to less music. Actually, it meant that they had access to more music. And while it might have made for some shakeups at major record labels, it barely affected the smaller guys.
Yeah, and smaller guys are still not making any money, just like they were before.
And digital formats made it easier and cheaper for them to distribute and actually make profit off of the music that they sell, as well as find other avenues of income from the people. You know, again, you know, music. If somebody's a fan of the music, they might download the MP3, but they buy the vinyl to hang on the wall, and they buy the T-shirt, and they go to the show, and blah blah blah. And the movies just are going to have to adjust in the same way.
Well, I mean, Kevin Smith brought up a point, and and Quentin Tarantino kind of co-signed on it, and I feel like it's a valid point, but which is, they said, you know, the day of the maybe like $5 to $15 million smaller movies, or not the day, but the window for them is getting smaller and smaller by the day. Like, studios have less and less patience and willingness to do those movies, unless it's like these Blumhouse horror movies that they can throw together for like 10 million, put out, and they make like, you know, 60, 70, and they're happy with that.
But the flip side of that is,
or Blumhouse, not Blumhouse.
The technology and methods of distribution for making movies is all becoming cheaper and easier to access for people. So the next Clerks movie is going to be made for even cheaper and get more eyeballs on it.
Well, he's definitely riding out this Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I mean, he's still going city to city, showing the movie and doing Q&As afterwards. And I've looked online. I haven't seen a pirated copy online. So obviously, they're doing due diligence at these showings. I mean, I'm talking like I haven't even seen cell phone footage, you know, of anything. And that's kind of unusual. I mean, you can go on YouTube and look up any question, Q&A that Kevin Smith's done, and there's, you know, shitty cell phone footage of it. So yeah,
but if you're going to actually put out a part, you have to have some quality to it, a little bit of stability, and, you know, frame the picture decently if people are going to download it. And if your screening is with, you know, the creator and director there in the theater with you, I think you're less likely to like prop up your phone.
Yeah, you're not going to be setting up a camera in the aisle. Hey, could you get out the way? You're blocking the shot.
But, you know, again, Kevin Smith is smart. He's not just trying to dump a bunch of money into advertising for this and hope that he has a big weekend. He wants it in the theaters, right? So what does he do? He sets up a tour. He's going to go around and introduce this movie to people, and he's going to make a shit ton of money doing these appearances.
Because that's how you make money now.
Yeah. And then he's going to release the movie like digitally and on Blu-ray, and to streaming services and make even more money. And like I said, because of whether it's tight security or he actually has a fan base that, you know, I understand what you're saying. You're less likely to throw up a phone and, you know, record a couple minutes of a movie if the fucking director's there. But maybe his fan base is respectful of him, and he's like, look, please don't pirate this shit. This is how I make my living. This, you know.
Only 2019 would I say this. Or is Kevin Smith just let him do their thing because he doesn't want to be videoed giving somebody shit? Because everyone's got a fucking camera now. So you just go, well, that's how it is now. Everyone records everything. I mean, you hear it with comedians all the time. You know, where they say they go to work at work at something at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday, but apparently the whole world's going to see it because everyone's got a camera now. Is he just, maybe he's doing that. Like, it's not worth it. Fuck it. But you've also said you found nothing online. So I don't know. It's the things that you have to think about now.
Well, there's more
stupid.
There's more and more, especially comedians, have those bags that you know, they lock your phone in. When Joe Rogan did his handful of dates with Dave Chappelle, he was like, they were strict about that. It was like, you don't want to put it in the bag, and then you're not getting in. Sorry. You bought a ticket, that's nice. You know, if you have an emergency, it rings, you need to answer it, that's fine. Come out here, we'll unlock it. Do what you got to do. But under no circumstances are you going in there with an unsecured cell phone. And I mean, it kind of sucks, but at the same time, I understand that mentality, especially if you're a comedian, you know, and I'm kind of waiting for it to start happening, like you said, with the clubs that especially the higher profile clubs in LA and New York, where you will get people like Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, whatever, walk in and do a, 40-minute set on a Wednesday night that no one was expecting.
It was Artie Lang who said it, who brought it up. Like, it's no longer just the people in the club because of the technology.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and this happens at my job when we have meetings or we bring people together and we're talking about proprietary shit. Trust me, because half the time I'm working the room telling these people to put their phones in their bag. I mean, it's becoming the new way of the world.
Well, I mean, what are you going to... Even if you put the phone in the bag, if someone just wants to record audio, they could just hit record, stick it in their bag, and you're going to get, you're going to get the audio recorded. Mm-hmm. I mean, but then of course you can always pull a what is it? Who's the mayor of Warren? Fouts, and say it's Adobe Cellophone player.
Yeah, Adobe Self player.
It's been faked. It's not real.
Well, that's the only way you're going to get around it. I think is it Chappelle, where you're not even allowed to bring it. Like, you check it. Like, it's not even coming into the room with you in a bag. Like, it is going to be in a separate room in a bag. Is it Chappelle who does that, or is it somebody else?
I think it's got to be someone else because Joe Rogan was talking about the bag specifically when he did his dates with Chappelle. Like, put them in the bag, and then there's some sort of lock on there, and if you need it, you go out and they unlock it, and you can use it. But if you go back in, put it back in the bag.
This is why we can't have nice things, people. We're being treated... think about it. He's treating us like we're fucking 5 because we've taught him to treat us like we're fucking 5 because we've proven we can't be trusted. We've proven like we are going to abuse something. We just can't act normal, can we? We just can't act right. We always got to push the boundaries. And I guess that's part of human nature.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's normal? Like, being an asshole is just normal. That is acting normal for us.
So, yeah, like I said, $8 million against a $55 million budget, and that's your opening weekend? Yeah. And Terminator... That was more than $100 million, and that did $27 million, something along those lines. Its opening weekend. Like, as a movie fan, I'm like, I'm not rooting for any movie. Well, that's not true. Some movies I actively root for to do bad if it's a bad movie, but it's like every time one of these big studio movies does something like this, the first thing I think is, okay, what movies that were on the, coming down the line just got put on the chopping block. What movies that maybe, I would have liked to have seen is going to get shown the door because, well, if Charlie's Angels failed, we're not going to take a chance on, this sci-fi movie or whatever.
And that's unfortunate because, again, we're back to, if it's a shit movie, it's a shit movie. Word of mouth will save you or break you either way. I'm sure there's plenty of examples that I can't think of right now where a movie has come out on a modest opening day or opening weekend, and then word of mouth gets around that it's good, and then the subsequent weekends, it does better. I'm sure we've had plenty of examples of those in the last couple of years, but
not so much. I mean, it usually does better on some other format.
I'm trying to think. There was something that came out in February. Either this year or last year, where it was expected to be a pile of shit, and the word of mouth just carried it. I don't know, but it's just stuff like this. If it comes out, it's a big pile of shit. Word's going to get around after the first weekend.
Well, I mean, like the movies that, and to give an example of what I'm talking about, Danny Boyle did a movie called Sunshine and released it in 2007, and it was his attempt at doing a hard sci-fi film. And besides, I feel the studio probably came to him and said, okay, in the third act, we need to have like a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? And okay, I want to make this movie. Compromise has to happen. He gave into it. I mean, it was like a $15 million movie. No, I don't know. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe like $20 million. But he said, at that point in 2007, if he felt like if he came in and pitched that movie today, they would go, oh no, you're not making that movie. We're not. No. If you want to finance it yourself, film it, edit it, bring it to us. We may distribute it, but we're not putting dime one into this movie. We're not taking that chance. And that's every time one of these big tentpole movie flops. I think people, some people are like, well, they're stupid, brainless popcorn movies, and a lot of them are. But the fallout is the movies that you actually like, the more artsy, fartsy movies, they're not going to have the chance to get made. So I don't understand the people celebrating that Charlie's Angels flopped and Terminator flopped. And they're like, good, those movies suck. Okay, they suck, but I don't know. Sorry, I got off on a little rant there.
How many Bosleys are there in this movie? I'm looking at the cast. There are 3 people playing Bosley.
Well, that's the other thing. Like in a lot of these movies, like they do the bait and switch. You know what I'm saying? They show you Patrick Stewart as Bosley, but apparently it's more of a cameo. It's not actually him in the movie.
No, it's according to this, Elizabeth Banks is Bosley, Patrick Stewart is Bosley, and then some black guy I never heard of, Digimon Hounsou, is also Bosley.
He's like a character actor. I recognize him. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, the real Bosley, please stand up.
Well, it's the same thing with Terminator. When I was watching a review of it, spoilers for the new Terminator, if you care, I'm about to ruin the first 5 minutes of the movie. They do the digital de-aging, and they have Sarah Connor, the actress that played her. I cannot remember her name off the top of my head.
Linda Hamilton
and Edward Furlong, and it's supposed to be like right after Terminator 2, and they have like this, the digital de-aging. And they kill Edward Furlong. Like, they just kill John Connor. And then they retcon the entire war between the machines and the man to where it's not Cyberdyne that started the war. It's some other company. But they ended up making the exact same Terminators.
I've not seen most of these movies, but isn't John Connor kind of like a linchpin to the whole fucking story?
He absolutely is. Yeah, he's the leader of the resistance. Every time... And it's like, and then when Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up, he's an old Terminator that's went and got married and like turned into Joe Sixpack and is now retired and living at home. And I'm like, wait, what? People go to a Terminator movie to see the Terminator, not the Terminator doing dishes.
Well, also, I know it's a fantasy story, but isn't he also a fucking robot? Wouldn't they just deactivate him if you're going to retire?
I guess.
I didn't know Robot had to save up a 401k.
And the sad part is that it's got, the actress that plays the new good Terminator. I cannot remember her name, but I've seen her in some other stuff. She's a good actress, and I'm like, it just seems like a wasted opportunity because it's Star Wars. You could hand off the baton. Terminator, do you really need to hand off the baton? And if you do, then just go with what they did or what they attempted to do with the Terminator that came out in 2009. Just change the setting to where you don't have to worry about having Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, Arnold Schwarzenegger come back. Put new stars in it. Like they did. They put Christian Bale as John Connor in that movie. I mean, that movie flopped according to Hollywood. It didn't make it. It didn't turn a profit. And then the next Terminator movie flopped. And now this is the third one in a row. And each time they put these movies out since 2009, they've said this is going to be the start of a new trilogy. No, it ain't. Right now, it's a trilogy of just suck. You get 10 years of putting out movies that didn't turn a profit. Which, I mean, as a person who's into like these type of sci-fi dystopian movies, every time, like I said, I'm like, all right. So I hear that, they finished up filming principal photography on the Dune movie that's supposed to come out next year. They're in the editing process. That director has broke that book up into 3 movies. And I'm like, aren't you kind of putting the cart before the horse? I mean, what happens if you release this movie and it doesn't do what the studio wants it to do? You're not going to make those other 2 movies. Kind of goes back to what you were saying, Aaron. Like, a trilogy needs to be earned, not just given to you right out the gate.
All right, that wrap us up for this week.
Yeah. All right. Why did it? I'm not. I feel like I say it every other episode. Who knows what the hell's going to happen this time next week? All right. It'll be Thanksgiving next week. Not sure we'll even have a show. We'll talk about that off the air. We won't bore you with that. But thank you for listening. We are everywhere that catches a podcast. We are Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker. I guess it's Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, ChristopherMedia.net. We're on Twitter at @RegimentedPod. You can always email us on regimentedpod@ChristopherMedia.net, or just unregimented@ChristopherMedia.net. And 2, if you want to throw us a couple bucks, because, hey, you like the show, there's a PayPal button, ChristopherMedia.net. Go there. You can be like Dawn. Dawn has decided she would like to subscribe to us, and she throws us a few bucks every month. So you can do that there. Christmas is coming up. There's the Amazon portal. It's a way to help us out without paying any extra money. You get your stuff from Amazon. We get a few cents of that purchase. Everybody's happy. So check us out every Saturday, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Later, guys.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net. If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for listening, and thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.